You may be asking yourself, how can I relate to other fathers that have their living children? They have story after story to share about them when I only have one, and it's tragic. It is this knowledge that for most of us, Father's Day will be too much to even want to celebrate. In this episode, we'll discuss 3 alternative ways to acknowledge the day, but without celebrating it with others, because it's just too painful for us at this time in our lives. Hello, everyone. This is Jeff, and this is
Tony Brabeck, the founders of Our Little Sparrows Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support. These tips we are about to share may be more for the fathers who have lost a baby and have no other living children at home or on the way. This was the case for us the first 2 Father's Day after our baby died, and we didn't know what the future looked like in terms of having any children to raise. For those who may be in similar circumstances and may have conflicting feelings regarding Father's Day, we hope you find these options helpful in facing Father's Day and honoring your fatherhood.
All right, so let's get started with the first of 3 alternatives for celebrating Father's Day. The first one is to just plain and simple get away. So simply take off and get out of town or do a stay vacation at home. Depending on your situation, this would be ideally with your partner, mom. Alternatively, this could be with a buddy or simply alone, and that's fine too. You just turn off all distractions, phones on silent, obviously, in case of emergencies. You want to hold out for that. Do whatever makes you happy during this time. So, people will binge watch TV series. Obviously, everything's available, Netflix and so on. Movies in general, read a book, or even talk about what is on your mind. So, obviously, when we say talk about what's on your mind, that can lead to talking about your situation with the baby. Um, whether you've lost the baby already or that's possibly coming, and that would be obviously like a fatal diagnosis or a life-limiting diagnosis, and the mom has chosen to carry. So whatever that conversation leads to, just let it naturally happen would be our best advice. But at the end of the day, whatever happens is okay.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that we had, of the 3 alternatives, would be to do a home project. So, what do we mean by that? It sounds straightforward, but maybe it's not. Tackle that project that you've been meaning to get to, essentially. So, sometimes we just need a bit of an escape to take our minds off of things for the moment. And we just specify for the moment, obviously, we need to address our grief, we need to talk about it, but there's a time and place for that, right? And maybe this Father's Day you're just not ready, and that's perfectly okay. So it can take your mind off for the moment and then come back to it, at another time. So depending on your situation, this would be ideally again with your partner. If not, with a buddy, or just do the project on your own.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important also to mention, as the wife and spouse, support person, and the mother of the baby, for the first 2 years, we were not pregnant. We weren't anticipating any kids when we had Father's Day. So I think even the first Father's Day, we chose not to do anything. We stayed at home. And it was important for me just to give Jeff that space to kind of do and feel and say whatever he wanted to during Father's Day or that weekend. And I think being able to have a discussion beforehand about how he felt and his expectations of Father's Day helped me to be able to support him. So I think it's totally okay if you decide, or if the father decides he just doesn't want to do anything that day. I think it's important, even though we may not feel the same way necessarily, but it is important for him to allow him space to navigate that on his own, um, but keeping the lines of communication open between the two of you. I think that's important. And if you're not sure about something, or if something he does confuses you, I hope you feel empowered to at least ask, and maybe he give him the opportunity to clarify um, how he's feeling and why he feels that way, so that you have a better idea of where he's coming from, and to be able to support him in that. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
I mean, if anyone's going to say something wrong or something awkward or inappropriate, it's going to be us. It's going to be the guys, because it's that different relationship, that we don't have the same relationship that mom has with the baby. So there's going to be things that are not at the forefront of our mind that we're
Mhm.
even thinking about. So I mean, I guess dismissive is probably a good word. And what I mean when I say that is that there's probably a lot of times that we say or do something that comes across as possibly dismissive, and that's not what we mean. But I mean, I from my own experience, I know for me telling Tony that I'm okay with not celebrating Father's Day was in my mind was letting myself and herself off the hook for having to plan anything, for structure anything. That that it's just I was okay with not having the attention on me.
Mhm.
And even though those were my complete thoughts, I didn't necessarily say all that to her. And so I could see how that could come across as not caring, dismissive, um, and that wasn't my intent at all. Um, yeah, and but, I mean that's where we need to be careful. I know communication is not easy. Um, say more, uh, and you're probably in a better position just saying more of what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what you're feeling.
Mhm.
More is better in this case for sure. Yep, good point. Cool. All right, on to the third and final alternative for celebrating Father's Day. This one, I think, for me, it took me by surprise. I'll be honest, because um, I, ironically, I don't usually think this way. Like, this is interesting. So the third point is helping others. Wow. So that's taking the focus completely off of us,
Mhm.
and instead that's taking our grief, our sorrow, our tragic situation, and it's like flipping it on its heels and not allowing it to have power over us. That's that's crazy. That's just mind blowing for me. So what do we mean by this? There's different things that you can do um, to help others, right? So for some, the best medicine is to do something for someone else. This process will allow some grace for your pain and your suffering, and that's what I mean by flipping it on its heels. It takes away the negative aspect of it for that moment because
Mhm.
you've chosen to do something powerful and impactful for someone else, whether they know your tragic story or not. If you know of someone that needs help and they could use a handout, go and do it. Help others that you don't even know. What can you do? You can visit the homeless. You can take them food, something that was bought, or do something that's like you're good at. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're good at barbecuing, if you're good at baking, I know a friend of mine is excellent at making bread.
Mhm.
Make whatever you are good at and give it
Mhm.
freely to the homeless, right? Or you can purchase something, just get out there and do something for the homeless in that regard. Another opportunity is a food pantry. So sometimes projects take our minds off of things. Go through the pantry, grab what is waste as far as canned food, and then go to Costco, go to somewhere else, and purchase some canned goods and food, and take it to a food pantry. And don't just take it there. Let's go a step further, and let's also volunteer that weekend.
Mhm.
So you're not only dropping that food off, you're also getting on the other side of that table to give that food out. And
Yeah.
how powerful and how impactful is that for others?
Yeah.
Um, and someone's gonna ask about your life. And so conversations can lead to why you're there, and that's okay if you're okay with that and prepared for that.
Mhm.
And the third thing would be to contact your church. So, and the reason why I say church is that it's like what other institutions in your city can you contact that have a set group of attendees, congregants, members? It's your churches, and who's going to have the best pulse of your neighbors? It's going to be the churches that they attend,
Mhm.
right? And so just pick a church, a random church, it doesn't matter, in your city, and just call them up and say you want to do something for their members that are in need, and just ask what that might be.
Mhm.
So I'm not really going to go into any more detail than that because that's pretty much where the exchange will take place, and you'll figure it out from there.
Mhm.
Um, and whatever that leads to, it's going to be powerful. It's going to be impactful, not only for you, but for that family or that individual,
Mhm.
whatever that ends up being.
I know for myself, I think some of the best gifts that we've received are when someone has done a service or a donation in memory of
Right.
Olivia.
Yeah.
And the best times is when we've chosen to do something where we've given back in honor of Olivia. And so I think there's just something about giving back and doing it in honor of your loved one that is powerful. It helps you in your healing journey, but is also giving back, and
Mhm.
you're helping someone else
Right.
um, in their struggle. And so I think that helps us, just kind of gives us perspective, but it's just a really good feeling to know that the service that you're doing or donation that you're doing in honor of your son or your daughter is going to benefit and bless someone else.
Right.
So,
And it doesn't have to begin and end with one occasion, one holiday. Um, Different families do different things. Christmas time every year they do something.
mhm,
The birthday of
yeah.
your baby, um, or the remembrance date of your baby. I mean, it just there's so many different levels, so many different
Mhm.
levels of that. So yeah, we just encourage you guys. Those are three great alternatives to not have to embrace and face a difficult holiday. And specifically, we're talking about Father's Day this time. All right, you guys. So as we close this out, some final thoughts. For some of us guys, we are ready to embrace Father's Day. For others, we just need more time to figure out how we feel and what we want. I hope that you give yourself time to think about your baby and to find your voice to talk about things with your partner, about how you feel and what you were thinking. It's next to impossible to support others if they never tell us what they think, and even better, what they feel. Just something to think about.